quote that has resonated with me from the Happiness Project is the days are long, but the years are short. And I've felt this in my life that I'll go through the daily routine of doing all the things of, taking care of the kids, doing my routines in the morning, doing my routines in the evening, reading and working towards projects that I have. And it just feels like from day to day, you're not making much progress. And it can be really frustrating when you feel like that you're putting the work in, but you don't really see any progression in anything. But yet, when I look back at where I was 4 or 5 years ago to where I am now, I see leaps and bounds of progress in myself. And maybe you can relate to that yourself, that in the short term, day to day, you don't really see much of the change. But maybe you can look back on the years and see how you completely overhauled yourself, maybe in relationships, maybe in finances, maybe in your career. You can see the huge progress that you've made in your life. And so that's why I want to share in this episode. How can we track our progress from a day-to-day basis and see that what we're doing and the strategies that we're implementing are actually working, are actually helping us, propelling us forward? What are some of the signs that show that we are expanding in our mind and our soul? And what can we look for within our lives that maybe we might not realize are actually signs of expansion? And so the first one I want to share with you is that you begin to tolerate less. And so maybe as you were going through your life, you tolerated a lot. But as you started to invest in yourself, as you started to pour energy into yourself, as you've gone on your personal development journey, you start to notice that you're less tolerant of maybe things people say or what people do or certain situations. And you just don't find yourself gravitating towards it anymore. You don't pour any energy into it. You're just kind of allowing it to be without investing in it anymore. You don't tolerate the things that you used to. And that is a true sign of growth, that you have expanded. If you notice that maybe a few years ago you were tolerating certain situations that maybe were draining to you and left you feeling depleted, and you just put up with it because you felt like you had to. And now you're noticing that you're not doing that quite as much. Maybe you say no just a little bit more to some of those situations. That is a true sign of growth, that you are allowing yourself to do more of the things that are aligned with you and allowing yourself to move away from some of the things that don't feel aligned. So that lack of tolerance for some of the things that you have going on in your life and the ability to move away from those is a sign of that growth that you're experiencing. Number two is unraveling. And this is a really, really challenging one, And when you are expanding, when you are investing in yourself, when you are loving yourself more, realizing your own self-worth, sometimes the things in your life that you had that were a staple start to unravel, start to fade away. And that can be relationships, that can be a job, that can be a location that you used to live in. It can be many different aspects of your life, but you may start to see those things unraveling. And this can be really challenging because initially there's a lot of fear with that, especially with relationships. As you see relationships dissolve, that is really hard because in some respects, it created a sense of safety and familiarity in your life. And it can be really hard to understand that while you're on your growth journey, some of the people aren't coming along with you. And that loss of relationships can create a lot of grief in those situations. And yet, this can be a really strong sign that you are growing and evolving in your mind and your soul. When you see some of these past relationships that maybe resonated with you in a past version of yourself no longer resonate with you in this current version of yourself. And I want to share that with you because I've gone through that in my own life where I've seen relationships unravel. And it's been one of the most challenging things. And if you are experiencing that, it's so important to anchor into that deep knowing that you are on a journey of loving yourself, realizing your worth, and it's not an exclusion of those people that maybe are leaving your life, but it's an invitation for them to come along. And at that point, it becomes their choice on whether they want to join that journey with you or not. And unfortunately, sometimes people are unwilling to make the changes or to evolve themselves. And sometimes those relationships then unravel. And that becomes really challenging. And interesting enough, I did a meditation last week, and one of the messages that came through for me was just this picture of a spool thread. And the spool thread had to unravel completely, where there was no thread left on the spool for a new piece of thread to ravel back onto that. And it was so symbolic because I'm experiencing that in my life currently. And it allowed me, the message I got from that was that sometimes things have to unravel completely, leave that old thread where it is in order for new thread to come on. And while in this human realm that can be really challenging, I truly believe that my soul's journey has to go through some of these lessons in order to learn that and to create a new life for myself where it's evolved in my mind and my soul. And that new thread can then wind onto that spool. And without removing the old, we don't really make room for the new. So it's absolutely necessary sometimes for things to unravel in order for space to be made for something new in your life. And so this is one of those signs that when you're going through it, it can be really scary. There's a lot of grief in it. And it can be really confusing that here you are doing all this work to evolve yourself, and it seems like your life is fraying and dissolving around you. So it can be really confusing. But again, in those moments, just anchor into your knowing, your loving of yourself, your worth, and just trust that what's meant to be really will work out. And if it's meant to be in your life and it's for your higher good, it will come into your life and stay in your life. The third one is energy awareness. So being aware of your energy, where you're investing it. And so when you start to invest in yourself, you pour energy into yourself, you realize that you're worthy of your own time and energy. You become much more protective of your energy. You're less likely to invest it in areas that will drain it, in areas that are undeserving of your time and energy. And you are just much more aware of what's going on with your energy. And so when you are investing in yourself, it's like a bank account. When you continually deposit into that bank account over and over and over again, you build that bank account up. The last thing you want somebody to do is withdraw from that bank account without your permission, or just completely take advantage of you and remove that money that you've worked so hard to put into it. So by investing in yourself, you become much more protective of what you have invested in, and you're less likely to allow people who are draining to be in your world and take that energy away from you. And so this is a huge sign that you are evolving, that you're less likely to put up with people who drain your energy, and you're more likely to surround yourself with people who build up your energy, that vibrate at the same level that you do and really bring you up. And so this is really important because you become much, much more aware of where your energy is before and after being around people. And then you become much more selective of where you're going to invest that. Number 4 is the challenges that you're experiencing in your life begin to be perceived as lessons. And so this was a huge transition in my life where I would view challenges previously as thinking, what does the universe have against me? What else is going to happen? And it was very much from more of a victim mindset of like, why does this always occur? What's going on with this? Why am I attracting this into my life? I don't understand it. And what else is going to happen? Versus now I recognize that some of the hardest challenges in my life are placed there as lessons, and that this is for me to learn and grow from. And sometimes we grow from wisdom, and sometimes we grow from pain. And it's those challenges that, as painful as they are, become some of the biggest catalysts in our life to become a more evolved version of ourselves. And I've seen that in my life, and maybe you've seen that in your life, that you can look back on some of the more painful moments in your life and realize how much it created a new evolution in yourself and growth within yourself. And while it may have sucked to go through it, maybe you can even look back and be thankful for it and be grateful for it. Maybe you can't, and that's okay. But that perception of what challenges are is where the power lies. When we perceive challenges to be lessons, things that we can grow from, then it's truly a sign that we are evolving. We realize there's more to everything that's going on, and that everything is placed in our life to teach us something. And if we can start to learn from those, it's less likely that they repeat. Number 5 is learning to let go. And so a huge transition that's helped me in letting go is just changing the language in that, because sometimes letting go feels like just so much loss. We just have to let go of things. And sometimes when we view it as letting go and we view it as a loss, our ego wants to almost hold on to it more because it feels like a loss. And sometimes it feels like there is a fear around that when we perceive something to be a loss. So for me, I like to use the words let be. Let it be. Sometimes there's going to be situations in your life or people in your life that are going to make choices, and maybe it doesn't align with your choices. And sometimes we have to just let that be. Sometimes we can't continue to invest energy in people who maybe are unwilling to change, or situations that are not changing. And we just have to let it be. We have to release the energy that we're holding on to that so that we can use that energy to move ourselves forward. And so this is a big sign that you're evolving if you're more likely to just let things be, surrender to them, allow them to move and progress in the way that they're naturally meant to, and not white knuckling it and controlling it and trying to make the story what you thought it should be, or create an expectation of what you think is going to happen in the situation or what should have happened. Sometimes we just have to let go and let be. And that is really challenging, especially if you're someone who is typically comfortable being in a place of control. Letting be and surrendering to that is a really, really challenging process. And some of the steps to allowing yourself to just be in a place of letting things be is first accepting them for what they are. So some situations are going to be what they are. Some people are going to be who they are. And we have to accept that. And sometimes it's really challenging. A lot of times it's really challenging, especially if you're in a relationship that was meaningful to you, to accept that person is who they are, and they may never change, and they may never choose anything differently. And it's only with that acceptance that we allow ourselves to move forward. But with that acceptance comes a lot of grief, because maybe we anticipated that situation or that relationship to go very differently. Maybe we envisioned our life to be very different from that point on. And we have to grieve what we thought it would be, who we thought they would be for us. And it's only through that process of grief and going through that grief do we realize that we can actually surrender to it, and surrender to them being who they are and the situation being what it is, and just let it be. And so this, by no means do I downplay the complexity and some of the challenges in doing that. But if you can start to move yourself in that direction of just letting things be, then you're releasing yourself from that. And you are also showing that you are expanding and evolving. And so I understand that challenge. That's something that I have actively worked on in my life, and I continue to allow things to be. And surrendering for me has been one of the hardest things in my life, because I am that person who wanted to be in control of everything. And it's only through some of the biggest challenges in my life that I realized, like, I don't have the control to change things. And I sometimes just have to let it be, because I can either choose to invest my energy in trying to make it change and trying to control the situation and the story, or I can just let it be and then choose to direct my energy towards moving forward, towards my own growth, towards my own love for myself, towards my own worth, and investing in that. And through that love, sometimes situations do evolve differently, and you start to see things differently. And it becomes a little bit easier sometimes maybe to let things be. when you actually invest that energy in yourself. And so those are the 5 big signs that you are expanding in your mind and your soul. Again, number 1 is you start to tolerate less in your life. You start tolerating less of the things you used to. Number 2, things will unravel. But again, it's just making space for new things to come into your life. Number 3, you're aware of your energy and where you're investing it. Number 4, challenges in your life begin to be perceived as lessons. And number 5, you're more likely to just let things be, surrender to them, allow it to be. These are 5 big lessons I've learned throughout my life, and I'm continuing to learn and to embody every single day. And if you can just take one of these away with you and start to see it in your life, it's those recognitions of your own expansion that become footholds for you to continue to grow. And we really have to celebrate our own growth throughout the process. While it's great to look back on our growth in the years, it's also good to look at our growth in moments. So if you're going through something right now and you're seeing where maybe this could be a big lesson for you and that you can learn from it and grow from it, or maybe you're learning to let things be, or maybe you're learning to accept things as they are and invest your energy in the things that you want to, then those are your wins. And recognizing our own wins is going to be a big catalyst for our ongoing expansion and growth within our mind and our soul. And so I hope these messages help you to recognize how far you have come and how far you are going and how you are growing, even though it may be sometimes hard to see in the thick of it all, but you are expanding in your mind and your soul. I hope this helps.